Ever wonder how women compare to men in terms of investing, saving, and wealth building? Keep listening as we compare one gender to another. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Brittne Halford.
And I'm Dr. Lisha Taylor.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time. Hey, Lisha, one of the most important financial tasks we do as doctors is protect ourselves, which means getting the right insurance. I recall purchasing my insurance policy just a few days before I graduated from residency. What was your experience?
So I got my insurance when I graduated from medical school right before I started residency. I actually called a few agents, but I had the best service from Pradeep Auto at PKA Insurance Group. He was super responsive and personable. Unlike some of the other agents, Pradeep actually got me quotes from all the major companies and actually took the time to explain the nuances in each of their policies. What I loved most is that he wasn't just this way for me. Whenever I would send one of my friends to him, he would not only speak to them, but he'd also let them know where to go or who to contact if there were better options or discounts available.
At PKA Insurance Group, Pradeep Auto and Matthew Peterson are independent brokers focusing on disability and life insurance. They excel in securing coverage for physicians and other medical professionals. Discounts on disability insurance can range from 10 to 40% depending on your situation. And there is now an A-plus rated carrier offering up to $10 million of life insurance without lapse. If you are very healthy with limited to no medical issues, approval is likely in 5 minutes. Reach out to PKA Insurance to discuss your disability or life insurance needs at www.pkainsurance.com or call 1-800-258-1018.
Lisha, I am super excited for the free masterclasses that we have coming up. Not only because I love meeting with women and chatting with them and teaching them about how to manage their money better, but we're doing a little bit more than that this time. We are actually going to teach women how to not only manage their money, but make more money. More money, more money, more money, more. Me too. We have 2 masterclasses coming at you that you are not going to want to miss. Did you know that over half of people never negotiate their salary at their job? And did you also know that over 70% of employers would negotiate, but the candidates never asked for it? So we're going to teach you how to negotiate with some confidence, negotiate like a boss, negotiate with success. And we're going to be teaching you that in our first masterclass on November 12th. And in the next masterclass, we're going to teach you how to determine which side gig is right for you and how to leverage your 1099 income to do what I love doing best is reducing my expenses, reducing that tax expense with your 1099 income. And so if you are someone who would really enjoy learning about different side gigs, learning about some of the perks of 1099 income and how you could use that to your advantage, please sign up to attend our masterclass. That one will take place on November 14th at 8 p.m. So if you are interested in boosting your income at your job and outside of your job, then you definitely want to be in the building. Not only that, you will get access to our exclusive guides that are going to teach you the exact steps that you need to know how to negotiate and to pursue your passion. And you get an opportunity to ask questions. What I find most helpful during these masterclasses is really getting that personalized attention from the coaches. And your coaches are Dr. Brittne and Dr. Lisha, and we are super excited. You might be thinking that, oh, it doesn't work for my schedule. We encourage you to sign up anyways, because we will be sending out the replays, and that way you can consume the content on your own time. And we will have a follow-up session all about Q&A. So come with your questions and get answers.
That's exactly right. So they are Tuesday, November 12th at 8 p.m. and Thursday, November 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click the link in our show notes to register. It is free, and we cannot wait to see you there.
All right. So, Lisha, there's been a lot of life is lifing over here between finding balance. It's just been a really busy season. I've recently acquired this new role as the director for minority recruitment and mentorship. And as part of that role, I have to review all of the internal medicine applicants and decide who should be invited for an interview and who should we decline. And that was so challenging. It took me so much time. I know you know this because I text you like, we're going to have to start a little late today. I'm trying to finish up 5 more applications to review. Girl, it was like late night. So I'm trying to balance it all.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited for you. I remember when I was on the admissions committee at my medical school, and that was a fun job for me. I didn't have to read all of the applications because I was on the admissions committee. There was somebody else who did like the prelim kind of sift through, and then people that they were thinking about inviting for an interview, then those people kind of got to me. I would be responsible for reading some of the applications, and then we would meet. I would then present said applicants in front of the committee, give a summary and that sort of thing. And I'm saying this to say that I always took pride in it because I was like, man, I'm helping to choose the next generation of doctors. And it was so cool at the time. And then I sort of retired that role and I was like, wow, this was a lot of unpaid labor. I am glad to see now that someone has taken pride in this. It is not unpaid labor, it's a part of your role. But I said this to say, I wonder how you feel. You're in a very prestigious, so we say, institution up there in Boston. And so you're kind of in charge. I feel like we're going to start getting emails being like, okay, Dr. Halford, put me in, put me in, put me in, coach. What are you thinking about all of this?
It's extremely challenging because, like you said, this is a prestigious institution. And so we get tons, like thousands of applications. And during the review, I not only want to prioritize those who are performing academically well, that's really important, right? I want the person that comes to our institution to be able to learn and be able to have a good working fund of knowledge in medicine. But also, there's something about being able to balance multiple roles of having a desire, empathetic, philanthropic need, and you meet that need with action, right? So, for those who do community service or social justice work, working with the homeless, that to me resonates more almost to their ability to be a good doctor, to their ability to see the entirety of who a patient is outside of their medical illness. So, I have thoroughly enjoyed reading these applications. I am impressed by the publications, all of the stuff. I'm like, shoot, I have none of this when I applied. But it is extremely challenging. And there was one applicant who went through a very difficult time in their lives and they had to take a leave of absence. And they took that leave of absence to support their family. And although they didn't perform as academically well because of that gap, I still thought that they deserved an interview because for me, your ability to one, understand that your family needs some support and fill in that gap. I don't know. It just spoke to me. So hopefully our program director and associate program director are okay with Brittany's ability to kind of read past the numbers and to allow some applicant's story to pull on my heartstrings and give them a chance at becoming a resident where we are.
Wait, I have a nosy question for you. You read every single application, or is it just the minority applicant, like the diverse candidates, or how does it work?
So, how it works here is that we have kind of a group, a review committee, and then they divvy it up based upon the school. So, they try to make the numbers even. So, I had two schools that I was reviewing.
What do you mean by schools? Like schools that the applicants are coming from?
One person could be like, everybody from Harvard goes to Sally, and everybody from Duke goes to Lisha, and Brittne gets Northwestern or what have you. So, we'll divvy it up that way.
How many people on this committee? Or you just get like 20 million applications from everybody at Harvard and Duke and Columbia, and so they need their own review person. Okay, there is a lot involved here, I am seeing here. And then a nosy question. I'm sure people might be interested, maybe not, I don't know. How does it work if like you want an applicant to get an interview? I'm sure the program director, assistant program director would also review that application. What if they didn't make the same selection that you did? How does it work?
So I don't know if they review all the applications. Typically, we have like a second round cut. And so there is some review and we have a discussion. That's what I really love about the institution and where I work is that it is so collaborative and I have felt so supportive. So if there's someone who I'm like, really, I think their journey shows one of resilience. And although they had this life obstacle, like look at everything that they've done despite, and we have a discussion. So we make it work.
I love that. I love that for you. Seems very exciting. Things are rolling smooth over here for me in Atlanta. Although, there's like these big storms and hurricanes and things. So traffic on the interstate, 0 out of 5 stars. Okay. I do not recommend people avoid that. Anyway, as I was stuck in traffic, I was listening to podcasts because that's the kind of person I am. I listen to podcasts. I'm always trying to learn new things. And one of my many podcasts that I will listen to is the New York Times podcast called The Daily. And it had an episode that made me think of you. So I thought I'd bring it to the podcast. And so, gosh, I can't remember the exact title, But the premise is basically it's like being a parent causing you extra stress or stressing out parents even more. And it was based on the Surgeon General. So, like, America's public health doctor. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he basically sends out these reports every so often about public health hazards and things that Americans should be aware of. And then the most recent one, he talked about the stress of parenting and how, because I don't know all the exact terms because I am not a parent, but it was like this intensive parenting where parents feel the need to be teaching their kids at all times in order for them to learn and progress to prevent regression, that basically parents have less leisure time now. Parents are doing things less with their friends. Basically, more of their time is spent with their children. That is actually making them a little less happy, way more stressed, and all of this stuff. And it reminded me of you because a few weeks ago, we had this discussion about Brooke. Do you need to teach her all about African American history the day before she starts kindergarten? And, your husband said she can go a day without learning. And that was really weighing heavy on your heart because you thought you should not waste any mommy time. I'm obviously being facetious here, but you're laughing because you understand where I'm coming from here. I would love to get your take on this.
It's so funny because I was actually also just discussing this with a colleague who is doing all of the things. And it's remarkable because our children bring us so much joy. Like, I love my kids when I look back at photos and when I see them playing and just some of the nuanced conversations and comments that they make. Kids just really have a heart of gold and they bring me so much joy, but they tire me out too. Right. And my husband, who is a child psychiatrist, he brings all the time kids who are stressed. And in addition to the parents being stressed, like, are we causing our children to be more anxious? And there's a book, which I haven't finished listening to it, but about the anxious generation. And it's really interesting because when we think about the evolution of parenting now compared to how we grew up, Lisha, I don't know if this is true for you, but growing up in Flint, Michigan, my mother had the support of her mother and her two sisters. And so it was not all on her. Although she was a single parent, I had somebody to go to. And, I never went to daycare. My grandmother and my aunts were there. So she didn't have this pressure of, oh, let me meet the clock. Oh, let me make a certain amount in order to afford childcare and all of these things. In addition to that, if I had a soccer practice, if I did cheerleading, whatever, she dropped me off, or there was some type of carpool with another mom in the area, and she left. There was no monitoring. Like, she just figured out that I'm going to get home. I'm going to be safe somehow. And my husband highlighted that at my daughter's soccer practice, all of the parents are like hovering. They're just sitting there and they're waiting. And so I think this transition of parenting, not having the familial support and then also being expected to be present at all of these things, adds a level of complexity and also stress for the parent. And now we arrange play days. Before, we used to just say, go outside and come back before the lights come on. And so the kids would figure it out for themselves. So I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think this is even why it's more imperative that women really focus on their financial literacy, their financial education, making sure that they are negotiating their salary and monetizing their passions and pursuing their passions so that we can protect our health. Because we are no good parents if we're stressed out, worried about money and things of that nature. So thank you, Surgeon General, for highlighting this, but we also got to fix it. So how do we fix it? What is going to be the culture shift? I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in listening to the podcast, the title is The Parents Aren't All Right. I thought it was a catchy title. I listened to the whole thing. In the end of the episode, they do mention some of the Surgeon General's recommendations and how he is advocating for policy changes that include paid time off, sick leave, subsidizing the cost of childcare, and things like that, so as it can take some of the stress off of parents. Also, making more parents aware of this phenomenon so that you can make a conscientious decision to maybe be less intense at times than others. They give
Mhm.
this example of walking down the street, seeing the leaves change. And instead of being like, well, do you know why the leaves change, and making everything a lesson, that you can just allow them to enjoy the change in color and move along. And so I don't think anyone disputes that this kind of parenting may be great for the kids, but we also want to keep in mind the health and the stress of the parents as well. So I thought it
Yeah.
was interesting.
That's so interesting. Okay, I just want to highlight before we moved on this childcare thing. So, ladies, if you all have children or if you're interested in having children, I think that this is something definitely to look at. At our institution, they have this benefit where we can get free access to care.com, which is great. I found a nanny and some help off of that. They also give you this sick care benefit that almost feels to me like a false benefit. I don't know if I mentioned this before. And I think I need to go back to my boss and articulate this again. Because when your kids are sick, like they don't want to be cared for by a stranger, right? So if you have a babysitter who is typically around and your child is sick and can't go to daycare, you use that babysitter, they don't compensate you for it. So instead, what you have to do is pay out of pocket or you have to use one of their care.com babysitters. But oftentimes my kid is vomiting and they're pooping. A random person does not want to care for that, right? It's just like an exposure. You're going to expose your family as well. And then the parents can't feel comfortable leaving them with a stranger when they're not feeling well. So I think policy changes are definitely important in just making sure that if there is a benefits committee or if you can give some feedback, if you have these benefits and they're not working for you, then give that feedback to your department so that you can feel supported. Because I had to email my boss. I'm like, this is not a true benefit. And thankfully, they were able to advocate for me and I got reimbursement for that. And it's not complete reimbursement the way that the benefit works, but I did get some reimbursement for that. But it was an added burden, right? I think they need more parents on these committees so that they can actually implement the policy changes that are palpable for us.
Yeah, so it looks like we just highlighted a new committee for you besides the admissions committee. It's the Child Leave Policy Committee. Dr. Halford on the call. She is ready to change some things. What do they say? They say that the thing that bothers you the most, that is usually a clue into your calling. Right? Because you're motivated to change things and improve things that you are personally affected by. And I could just tell based on our conversation, Brittne, that you were going to be a change agent for us. So when folks like myself finally have kids, then we can rely on the work of people like you.
Yeah, Lisha, thank you. And we'll see. We'll see what I do.
As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income. Because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long-term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
I think this also is just a great opening to this conversation that we're going to have on our financial focus today, which we're talking about specifically this current state of women and their finances. And we're going to highlight women in medicine, but also just knowing that some of these statistics are generalizable, right, across all industries. And as we talk about parenting, as we talk about benefits, studies have shown that women still do a lot of the parenting. If you're in a heterogeneous relationship, like more so than men, women still do more of the household tasks and carry that cognitive load as well, right? So not only this is women in the home, but now let's talk about what happens at work, what happens with our compensation, with our debt load, what happens with our investing. And this is not an episode to deflate you. A lot of these statistics, unfortunately, don't look promising for women at times, but there is some hope. And so we want you to keep listening to the end because we're going to give you some tips, tricks, all of the things that you need to just get beyond the statistics so that we can change the narrative for women.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into this. We talked about in our teaser how we were going to compare one gender to another. We're comparing women versus men today. And I am very excited to sort of get into this. So Brittne, kick us off.
All right. So let's just talk about the progress because I don't remember the exact date. Now I'm like Googling. I think it's 1974 that women were able to have a credit card. So before that, we were not even able to have a credit card. And now, when we think about looking back historically, Lisha, I don't know about you, but looking in the rooms of medical students and leaders in medicine, it used to be filled with white men, like all these pictures filled with white men. And there's still a lot of that. But now women make up more than 50% of the medical school graduates. Like, how much progress have we made? Despite that, however, there are challenges that persist in terms of our compensation and wealth building. I don't know if you remember this article. This was like highly publicized in the news, but there's a 2021 article that showed that over the lifespan of a career for a physician, so let's say a 40-year career, that women physicians made $2 million less than their male counterparts. Do you remember kind of like hearing anything about that or reading anything about that?
I don't. And I feel like this is one of those eye-opening statistics that I would have remembered. I would love to understand it more. Is it just on average female doctors to male doctors, or do they like control for specialty choice and like how many hours a week? And there's still that big of a gap, $2 million less. You're nodding your head. This is crazy.
Yeah, and that's per positions. And we consider ourselves as high income earners. We consider ourselves as being compensated fairly. But I think this just attests to a couple of things. When we think about just women in general, and we have an episode where we're coming up, we're going to talk about this as far as women and their state of negotiation, but we know that women negotiate less. But taking the onus off of us, a lot of this also has to do with the culture in which we work and the leadership that we have. So studies have shown that women who support other women are more successful and that they have similar compensation, like they get paid more when women are leaders. But then there was this New England Journal of Medicine article, I don't know from which year, I remember reading it last year, that talked about women physicians not in leadership was because we have less promotable activities. Now, here in Boston, where I work, promotion just leads to a small incremental increase in your income, but it's still something, right? And so if women are less likely to be promoted because those who are in leadership see them on committees for burnout prevention or the wellness committee, as highlighted in this article, as less promotable, but actually that helps you to retain your doctors. That helps your doctors to not feel so burnout so they can come to work and that they can actually provide quality of care to their patients. And that too has a dollar sign. It relates back to how much the hospital is going to be compensated by Medicare, et cetera. So it's just really interesting that we somehow have to shift this culture of how we're perceived, how the work that we're doing is perceived, and that is not less valuable than a work of our male counterparts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there should totally be much more transparency. As you were saying the statistic, right? Women physicians make on average $2 million less over the course of their career than their male counterparts. I did the math. That's saying that on a year-to-year basis for 40 years, women are making on average $50,000 per year less than their male counterparts. And if you're already controlling for specialty choice and hours worked, that is really eye-opening. I don't know about you, Brittany, but I would be very upset if I found out that somebody doing the same job as me made $50,000 per year more. I mean, that's a big deal. I know you said that part of it is culture, part of it is who your boss is, a part of it is did you negotiate your salary? But it's all about, okay, well, what do you do once you figure that out? I was reading this post the other day on social media of, I think it was a female physician who realized that her male counterpart who was hired around the same time, have the same job, is making more. And she went to her boss, from what I'm remembering, and sort of brought it up. And the boss said, well, how do you know how much money he's making? Right. And I think she said, well, I spoke to him. Right. She was very honest. And the rebuttal that she got, which was like totally unsatisfactory, was, well, there's no room in the budget for an increase. And the reason he got paid more was because he negotiated his salary and you did not. Right. It was so eye opening for a lot of reasons. Like, one, okay, well, we shouldn't be perpetuating a gender wage gap. I know when I was in negotiations at my job for compensation and we were looking at statistics, and people always anchor on the lower number. The employer always anchors on the lower number, and the person trying to get the raise anchors on the higher number. That always happens. Right. And so we're looking at statistics. And I remember my boss's boss actually was in the meeting too. He was like, okay, well, what about this? And I said, well, those studies show there's a wage gap between men and women, and we probably shouldn't use statistics that perpetuate a gender wage gap. That's literally what I said. Okay, well, let's go to the next. And I didn't say it in a rude way. I was just like, what we're not going to do. You're laughing because you know me, but I mean, they knew me too. And they were like, look, Dr. Taylor not playing today. I was not.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're laughing, right? But I just want to re-articulate. You're like, after that statement, they're like, okay, we're moving on. How powerful is that? That we can not only know the statistics, right, and feel a certain type of a way because it might speak highly or poorly of one demographic versus the other, but use the statistics to change culture and use the statistics to promote our equitable compensation. So I love that you're like, oh, okay, I know the data. Is this the culture that you're trying to promote here? Oh, come on. No one wants to say, oh, I'm paying my women less than my men here. I don't think any leader wants to say that because they have mothers, they have daughters too. But somehow I think the subconscious habits, a subconscious culture and bias that we have, and it's important for us to call it out so that we can change change the statistics. And so I love that you felt empowered because that is a true boss move, Dr. Taylor.
Hey, look, I haven't been fired yet. I think that they took it in stride. But yeah, I'm that kind of person, as y'all can see already. So that was an eye opening statistic. But I know you had some other statistics for us, Brittany. What else did you find?
Yeah. So I just want to highlight that we know that that gap is going to be wider for Black and Latino women in medicine as well. And so this kind of perpetuation of we get paid less. Physicians across the board between genders get paid less, but that same pay gap is evident across all industries. And that pay gap leads to a wealth gap. But let's actually take a step back before we become physicians, before we get into our career. We know that women tend to carry more student debt than men. And if you think about just the financial stress that debt causes, we know that those who have more student loan debt feel more financial stress, which leads to burnout. So that means that there might be a transition in your career. You might take a lower pay, a different type of job, etc. But also, when you have more debt, that debt is accumulating interest. That's interest that you got to pay off. So, as we talked about in one of our past episodes of how much should you have in retirement at each year, or what should be your net worth at each decade, if you have more debt, then it's going to be harder to get to that number. And with women carrying more student loan debt, then that means that we're going to have less money to invest, less money to use for our families, less money to do self-care so that we can feel good about the work that we're doing.
I wonder why that is. Actually, I had two questions. One is we know that the gender pay gap is worse for Black and Latino women. I wonder how it compares to Asian and Indian women. That's something that I don't really hear as much about, and I'll have to do some research and just look at that because I wonder if it's specific to certain races and ethnicities and how it might change amongst the different ethnicities. So that's something I'm interested in. And I wonder why women have more student loan debt. Like, why is it that women are more likely to come from families that have lower net worths? Is it that families that are higher net worth are more likely to invest more in their male's education than their female child's education? I'm just curious as to why do women have more student loan debt? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the statistics behind this, but like people who are able to pay their child's education, I think they're just as likely to pay for their sons as their daughters. But when we think about women just in general, women tend to get paid less. And so when we talk about student loan debt, it's not just the amount of debt that you take out, but the accumulation of the interest in that debt over time. And so if we're getting paid less, then of course we're paying less on our debt and it's accumulating more interest over time. So that's one factor. Women also have more advanced degrees than men. Most of my debt was graduate school debt. If we're going for the graduate degrees or if we're going for multiple degrees, because we know that when women look at a job application, if they don't meet 100% of the requirements for that job application, they're not going to apply. So I think women also just have this lower evaluation of their skills. And so in order to compensate for that, we might pursue other certifications and degrees compared to men who feel more confident in their abilities to do a job or get a job, even though they're less qualified. So those are some of the reasons why. And the studies have also shown that women do take out more debt for school compared to men. And another statistic is that women are more likely to graduate from school than men. So if a guy only matriculates and completes up to sophomore year, but a woman is going through all the way to graduation, then that's going to increase the amount of debt.
I didn't even think about what you said earlier, how you were like, okay, well, if women are getting paid less, then obviously they're probably more likely to be paying less on their student loans. But this makes me wonder, if women have more debt, do they also have less savings? Do they have a lower net worth? What did you find in terms of savings and net worth when it comes to women versus men?
Yes, both are true. Studies have shown that women are more likely to live paycheck to paycheck, especially in retirement. So even after we meet the age of, what is it now, 67? It used to be 65. Because we have less savings and less investments to grow our money passively, then we're more likely to live paycheck to paycheck in retirement. It really goes down to changing culture, making sure that we're being paid what we should and paid equitably. And one of the ways that you can do this is your hospital, if you are a woman physician or wherever you work, there is likely to be some type of finance committee. I know I recently joined the finance committee for the Department of Medicine, and they have looked at the statistics of how much women are getting paid in all of the subspecialties within the Department of Medicine compared to men. And I was so grateful grateful for them. One, just taking the time to do that analysis and then presenting it. You talked about transparency, and that is so important. So if you're at an institution that does not show that data, then you can be that advocate of change to say, okay, let's look at the numbers here. Because if we have less take home pay, if we have less money to put in our retirement accounts because maybe we need more cash flow to pay down our debt, then it's going to only continue to perpetuate these worst statistics for women.
Man, we talked about in a prior episode the importance of negotiating, or maybe we'll do that coming up. And we just talked about how they have less in savings. I also wonder about their financial literacy. And I'm using their, obviously, generally, I think that probably both genders could use increased financial literacy on average when we think about physicians and folks in healthcare. That's probably especially true for women, and that maybe they feel less confident in their ability to invest. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they have maybe a lower net worth or less likely to invest, is that fear of taking risk. I remember listening to a podcast the other day about how when some financial advisors sort of ask questions and try to see how people's retirement money is invested, they find that a lot of women, it's invested in these like stable value funds that really aren't invested in any stocks at all. Because when women are setting this up, they've got a lot of things on their mind. They're starting a new job and they don't really understand what the forms mean. And they hear something that says guaranteed return and they go, oh, that sounds good. That's what I want. Not realizing the implication of that decades later. And so it's this need for financial literacy, and it's this fear of not wanting to mess things up, and this risk aversion that I think can sometimes go against us.
Yeah, all of that is so true, Lisha. And I'm so happy that you highlighted this component of financial literacy because, I always say I'm frugal Franny, right? So I'm always trying to get a discount and learn it from my mama or decrease my expenses. But it's not about how much you make. Yes, that is important, ladies. We want you to negotiate for a higher salary that is commensurate with what your counterparts make. But it's also about what you keep. So it's not necessarily all about what you make, but also about what you keep. When we're thinking about keeping more of our money, then I think that goes hand in hand with our financial literacy. And actually, the FINRA, which stands for Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, they do these surveys and assessments, I think like every 2 years or so, and they highlight various different analysis. Sometimes they do across decades, sometimes they do men to women comparison at various time points. But in this evaluation in 2018, they did a self-assessed financial knowledge by gender and by year. So they basically grouped like baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials, and then they separated those out in men and women. And what they saw was that men actually perform better across all of the decades in their financial knowledge compared to women, but also over time. So they did a comparison of 2009 to 2015. I guess that's when they did the last assessment, that our financial literacy for women has actually improved. It has actually improved, which is phenomenal, but we're still not as good as the baby boomer generation when they did this assessment in 2015. And what that really highlights is one of the things that I tell whenever I'm giving a presentation, whenever I'm coaching someone, that financial literacy has two components. It has the knowledge. Yeah, you got to know the stuff, read the books, listen to the podcast, and thank you for listening to this podcast. But it also has use. And so one of my thoughts about this is just like baby boomers have had more time, even women, to learn how to use their money and manage their money better. So whenever you're thinking about increasing your financial literacy, don't just read the book, don't just listen to the podcast. We want you to actually make wealth-minded decisions and take action from what you learned.
Yeah. One of the things that I think might help with that is more information on financial wellness. When I am speaking to residents and physician groups about money, about investing, they love it. I think I'm a great speaker and teacher, but I think it's also them feeling like they can trust me because I'm also a physician. I'm not a financial advisor, right? I tell them all the time, like, I don't make any money by you investing one way versus another. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to manage your assets. I'm trying to empower you to help you build wealth and create the life that you want. And I think that they love that transparency, the fact that I'm not selling them anything. And when I'm speaking and I'm teaching, they're eating it up. I mean, they're asking me questions. They love it. And I love teaching. And I just wonder, I can only be at one place at one time. As much as I love, as we established established earlier, going and flying different places to teach other physicians, I sort of wish that there were more people doing this work and more opportunities for people to learn, because it's kind of like, unless you know me personally, you may be struggling. And hopefully there's other people out there that are helping them. But I just wish that when people were starting new jobs, that they could speak to somebody that at least was a little bit more unbiased, who could really help to teach them some of this stuff. Because I think if they knew better, they would sort of change their behavior and set things up differently.
Yeah, I love that, Lisha. And honestly, that's why I became a wealth coach for women in healthcare. And what I find, though, in my 3, almost 4 years of coaching, is that even when women know better, sometimes they don't do better because of a lack of confidence. And I think that's a main factor why women don't negotiate as well, because of a lack of confidence. And so the confidence only comes through practice, though, ladies. It only comes through practice. It only comes through giving yourself grace and latitude to make a mistake, because I think there's just so much guilt of what if. Don't ask what if, ask how. Ask how you can make something possible, right? And that's why I really love this collaboration that we have here on this podcast, because we create a safe space for women to learn. And if you have a question like, what would Brittne do or what would Lisha do? We're still here for you as well. So feel free to use that link, submit a question so that we can give you that personal advice. Like Lisha said, we don't make any money off of your investments, and we're not financial advisors or planners. So take our suggestions, our tips with as much credence as you desire, but I think it will provide you with at least a reliable source of information.
Yeah. So, Brittany, what can we do to sort of empower women to help them close this wealth gap? We talked about some of the statistics, right? How women tend to make less than men, women tend to negotiate less often, how women tend to have more student loan debt, save less, have lower net worth. It all just sounds depressing. So, what can we do to help ourselves as women and help other women in healthcare and in medicine sort of overcome these obstacles?
So, Lisha, thank you for asking that question. I think a program that we're launching soon, Boost, dun, 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 is one of the ways. And, I'm not just advertising and promoting our program, because what I love about Boost, and Boost is a coaching program that will allow you to increase your income. We teach you how to negotiate and monetize your passions. So, what does that mean? So, knowing your worth and articulating your value is so important. And that will help you during negotiations to increase your salary, right? And so we will teach you exactly how to do that. Like, we have a play-by-play script of, if they say this, then you should say this, because those objections sometimes catch us off guard. And we want you to be prepared when you're going through this process. And also, the monetize your passion piece helps you to increase your income. You will be your own boss. I am so extremely grateful for the government really incentivizing owning your own business. Owning my own business allowed me to increase my income, decrease my taxes, and have more take-home pay. It has also allowed me to come to you, right? Something that I'm so incredibly passionate about, and be able to make impact in the world. It has also allowed me to just be an owner of my time, because I don't have to ask my boss if I can get this day off, because I am the boss. I think knowing your worth and negotiating your salary is so important, and also investing in yourself. And so if you have a skill that you can monetize, then that will help you to increase your income. Lisha, I know you got some ideas. What else do you think we can do?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about our Boost program, because I think I mentioned this before, that I have talked to several women about this program. We're really just kind of talking to them about negotiation and helping to empower them, because I think sometimes we can know we need to do something, but we're missing little key details on how to do it. And those key details that we're missing are preventing us from having the confidence we need to execute it. And so one of the things that I like doing is helping to bridge that gap, right? It's okay, you want to negotiate. Okay, what is the barrier? Let's be honest with ourselves, that's keeping you from negotiating. Oh, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident. I feel like it's not going to change. All right, let's address each one of those. And then let's talk about the rebuttals that you might get, and let's prepare for it. I find like the more preparation I have for something, the more experience I have doing something, the more confident I have in my ability to do that. And so that's one of the things I'm excited about in Boost, is helping people to really gain that confidence that they need to be able to negotiate with success. The other thing is, we talked about monetizing your passions and how you and I both have side income. And it really does help us so much in our lives. Aside from just added income and cash flow that we can utilize, having some 1099 income, as you mentioned, helps us with our taxes. It allows us to open up additional tax saving retirement accounts that's beneficial. There's all of these other perks. And so being able to help women do those same things, I think is really awesome for me. And I'm really excited about it. And so if this seems like something that you are interested in, I would encourage you to invest in yourself. And I think one of the ways that you can do that is by participating in our program Boost. We're going to have a couple master classes coming up. The first one is Tuesday, November 12th at 7:30 p.m. And so we're very, very excited Eastern time. So if you're in a different time zone, just be aware of that. We'll put the link in the show notes so that if you want to attend our first master class, it's free, of course. You can just register at the link in the show notes. We are happy to have you. But yes, okay. So one of the ways that maybe women can overcome this gender wage gap is by knowing their worth, negotiating their salary, looking and trying to establish some extra 1099 income to boost their income. I think you had talked about investing in their financial education, right? Financial literacy is so important because it can arm you with the knowledge so at least you know what you could do and should do, or at least know options of different paths to consider. The other thing I wanted to talk about is investing early on. Sometimes I think that, especially as younger career physicians and younger career people, we think, oh, retirement is so far off. I don't need to worry about that right now. And so what happens is people tend to contribute less to their work retirement accounts. But the studies show that when you invest less initially, most people don't increase that over time. They just kind of stick with what they had when they first started that job. And of course, that has a huge effect. If you're making multiple six figures a year and you're only contributing, I don't know, 4% or 5% to your work retirement accounts, think about how big of a difference that could have made if you had invested 8% of your salary or 10% or whatever, if you'd at least contributed the maximum amount that's allowed, especially if you get some sort of match at your job. And so really understanding the impact of investing early in retirement accounts, in other investment accounts, because it can really have a large effect, especially when you factor in the compound interest, right? Your money makes money and then that money makes money. And so it just compounds over time and it can really make a huge difference into your overall net worth.
Yeah, Lisha, I love that. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this other statistic, which shows that women are actually better investors than men. And it's because, one, we're less risky, right? And we're looking and trading options and doing all of the things. We kind of set a plan and we forget it, or maybe we check on it periodically. And so we are less likely to switch gears and less emotional with our investments. So start investing early and just know and feel empowered that you can do this. And studies have actually shown that women are better investors than men. So I love that. All right. Well, ladies, I hope that we have encouraged you. We have just motivated you to make one small change today. And if you are at all interested in negotiating your salary, but you don't know how or you don't feel confident to do so, then go down to the show notes and definitely register for our masterclass where we're going to give you some tips that help you do that. And in our group coaching program, Boost, then we can be your coach and help you to really understand to go and break through those mindset blocks that are preventing you from doing what you need to do and articulating your value. And we will give you the tools so that you feel confident and an expert in doing so. And if you're like, oh, I need a side gig, because Lisha, I don't know if you know about this statistic either. It's just like 39% of physicians have side gigs. I was like, wow, that's a lot. So if you're like, I need a side gig, then you definitely want to go down and register for our wait list for Boost, because we'll be teaching you how to set up your business, how to really dive deep into who you are and what your passions and your expertise is and how you can leverage that for additional income. So super excited about all of that. And speaking about money, Lisha, what fun thing are you spending your money on?
Ooh. So I'm trying to upgrade my life, as we established. And, people say you look good, you feel good, right? And so I'm really trying to take that to heart. So I have a confession to make. When I go to sleep, I sleep in t-shirts and like running shorts, right? Nothing fancy. And I was reading this book about how, you should really take pride in the things that you wear. And it's like, if you could wear something that looks great on your body, why would you ever wear something that doesn't look great, right? So if you've got old clothes, if you've got faded clothes, clothes with holes in them, then maybe you should throw them away. Basic advice. And it really hit home because you're laughing. I've been blessed from God and genetics and gym workouts, all the things, that I'm around the same size that I have been for the last like 10 years or so. So I know some people listening to this are probably hating me right now. But because I've have been the same size. I haven't thrown away clothes because I can still fit them. And this little tidbit of information and advice about throwing away old clothes and faded clothes, and it really hit home for me. And I said, well, I think they're talking about me. So one of the things that I'm spending my money on is going through this process of throwing away old things and also transforming what I go to sleep in. I'm like, you know what? It wouldn't kill me to have nice pajamas or a nice little nightgown. I see people with it. I'm always thinking, oh, they're so nice. And so I'm investing in my nightgown, investing in night routine so that I'm not just sleeping in running shorts and oversized t-shirts all the time. So that's something fun that I'm doing with my money.
Oh, I chuckle because I am right there with you. I have not changed size even after my babies. I'm so grateful. I still have track shorts from middle school, Lisha.
Oh my God.
That I wear. Oh my gosh, I still use those running shorts. It's so funny because my nanny tried to get me to throw those away. I'm like, no, I still rep these shorts for over 20 years. Oh my gosh. And they are serving their purpose. So I'm so happy to hear that you're upgrading your life. You're getting yourself some new pajamas. You deserve it. But listen, I'm still going to sleep in my oversized shirts and my running shorts. So when I think about what I'm doing fun with money is I finally today actually got that massage and I used the gift certificate and got a massage today. And Lisha, I almost canceled because the kids had a dentist appointment that I had forgotten about. And then I told another mother who I met in the park, she lives down the street, she's a neighbor, and she needs some help finding a babysitter. So I was arranging these babysitter meetings with her and one of our nannies here. And I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to make it? And I made it. And so I actually went and I gave the woman a nice tip. So that's my fun money that I gave somebody else a little bit of money so they can have some fun and invested in another woman in that way and used the gift certificate that I had forgotten about. I've had it for 6 years. I'm so glad it's still valid.
Did you go with your husband? I thought that you had two, where it was one for you, one for your husband. Did you all go together or?
So we did not go together. The thing is that this spa only has a single room for massages. So,
okay.
we've been so extremely busy. I just figured that it's going to be December and January, and then we're going to be like, oh, crap. So I think eventually I'm going to use his gift certificate also.
Since we had date night idea that you guys were supposed to go get massages.
It was supposed to be, but man, I'm selfish. I'm selfish. I will schedule another date, a day date, I think, for us at a place where we can actually get a couples massage. Because honestly, I don't think my husband's going to drive this 30 minutes away, drive 30 minutes to go and get this massage as busy as he is. So I'll just schedule one at a place that we've been to before to get a couples massage.
I'm like, how did this serve as a gift for you and your husband? To I'm just going to take both. He's too busy. He'll be all right. That's basically what I heard. But you know what? As long as you had fun and felt relaxed.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. And we want to encourage you that despite all of the statistics that might not be reflective of our value, we can definitely change those statistics, but it requires us to take wealthy-minded action. So decide on the one thing that you're going to do today to change this narrative for yourself, for your daughters, and for another woman who's coming behind you. Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy-minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittne Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisha Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Pradeep Bhado and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.